Personalizing student engagement is only possible when enrollment management and Marcom are aligned. At Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College, Ryan Hogan's team uses Element 451 to improve student outcomes.
They love the AI functions where if they're coming up with an email campaign, they can ask it to help develop something and then they go in and edit that. They also really enjoy the use of the landing pages for the campaigns that we build. So not only do we design emails and things, but we can also have landing pages that can give information to our students. And so it really brings the team together. So our enrollment staff is helping identify what the issue is, and then the marketing communication staff can collaborate with them in Element to provide the solution for the problem we're trying to solve.
Aligned teams create better experiences for students. Visit element451.com to learn how an AI-first student engagement platform fuels a smarter, more connected campus experience. Hi, I'm a higher ed social media manager, and I have a confession. I can't remember how or when I met my guest today, but I feel like I've known him forever. Harrison Campbell, known to many as Soup, is the head of community experience at ZeeMee, and today he's talking with us about going through the enrollment process as a parent. Welcome to Confessions of a Higher Ed Social Media Manager, a podcast that addresses the do's, don'ts, and dynamics of the digital ecosystem specific to higher education. I'm your host, Jenny Li Fowler. Join me every other week for discussions with some of the best minds in higher education social media management and marketing. Confessions of a Higher Ed Social Media Manager is a part of the Enrollify network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes below. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. Joining me today is the one and only Soup Campbell. Soup, welcome to the podcast.
Oh my gosh, Jenny, thank you so much. So excited to be on the podcast with you today.
Oh, I'm excited to dive into it. You know, you're very familiar with the admissions process, but this is the first time you've actually experienced it as a parent, correct? You have a son who is a freshman at your alma mater, Indiana
University, yes.
Amazing. So can you talk about what the process was like as a parent?
I've had so many conversations since then. So my youngest son, first year student at IU, it is crazy that you can work in this profession, for years, even decades, especially even in enrollment management, right? Like directly in enrollment management. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as you go through this on the other side of it as a parent, all of a sudden, like, many of the pain points you heard for years and things, like, it just becomes so relevant. And it was just a real eye-opening experience because, we talk about things like the terminology we use and of course, I know all of those things, but even me going through the process as a parent, helping my child navigate this process, there were so many times I was frustrated, confused, and feeling like I was in a loop and not getting anywhere. And so I wish every single one of our higher ed enrollment management professionals could really see it through that lens and experience it that way, because it was just very illuminating to really understand what parents and students are going through.
I feel like a lot of times people think that social media might be the answer to their communication problems or woes, or we need to do more social. And I've always been in the school of thought that I'm like, I don't think, social media is your one size fits all answer. As a parent or as your child, were they looking in social media? Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah, I think you're right, Jenny. Like, there is no one place or no one platform or no one method of communication that should be like greater or what. Like, we need to be exploring all channels because every student is unique, right? Every student is going to navigate this way in their own way. And I'll give you an example. So my youngest son, now this will make you laugh, right? Like, I work for a company that's built one of the most popular social media platforms that, millions of these students now use.
Right. And prospective students,
yes,
particularly. Yeah.
My own son, and probably because it's something dad's been involved with, like, it couldn't possibly be cool at all. So, like, my own son really never even used ZeeMee. He was a big, he was a big Reddit kid. He was a student that just loved, like, if he needed information, what he wanted to know, he was able to find on Reddit. Now, whether that was always 100% accurate or not, we don't always know, but like, that was a place where he really felt comfortable getting information, hearing from other students. And so that was really kind of instrumental for him. But again, like, every student's different, like we wouldn't want to say, well, we should only be at Reddit just because of my son, because there's lots of other students that may, never use that platform. So,
right.
Yeah, that was his experience.
There's a lot of conversations happening on Reddit, but your son probably wasn't looking for that information on Reddit from the schools.
Correct.
He was interested in what the other students were saying, right?
Correct. 100%, Jenny. I think, like, to me, when I look back at this, again, being one of those early pioneers in higher ed for really leveraging social, when I look back and just see kind of what it's become today and how much it's evolved and changed, like, I think the tough challenge for all of us is that we want to be in all the places where the students are. And so, but the reality is, most of these platforms, students don't want us to be in that place.
Yes, exactly. They don't want to hear from us.
Exactly. It's because it's their platforms. And so, we've really, we did a lot with, like, shouting who we are, brand saturation. Oh my gosh, they're on Snapchat. We better be on Snapchat. Oh, there's this new thing, Be Real. Let's start doing Be Real. Like, and so it's like we always aggressively try to go where they are, but they don't always necessarily want us to be in those places, because many of those places are just for their friends. That's when they want to connect and have those groups there. So that can be a challenge, yeah.
And two, I think, even if we are in those spaces, they want to see the students creating content and really giving us their perspective and not us sort of washing it, like administration washing it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, these students are very, very bright and intelligent. They know they're being marketed to. They know everything they see on the school's Instagram account is to market, to them, and it's very heavily curated and branded. I mean, even today, even when we do student takeovers on Instagram, that's still often planned, thought through, curated, branded, a certain way. And it's difficult today for them to find channels where they can just really see what it's like. They can just really connect with real current students and get a very real picture and lens of what their experience might be like when they arrive on campus.
So going through this process as a parent, I know we talked about this prior to, there's lots of communication gets really sticky. Like, can you say some of the things that maybe schools did well that you particularly liked that maybe you'd like to see more of as a parent?
Yeah, I can tell you one thing that really stood out for me. And again, this is only just with my particular students.
Yes.
No ways am I represent, but we got so much awesome stuff in the mail from, so many wonderful schools. And my son never looked at any of it. He got this whole awesome packet from Harvard. And I'm like, as the parent, I am reading everything. I'm like, this is incredible. Like, I'm not wanting to miss anything. And it just goes in the pile in his room over by his desk. And I don't think he ever looked at any of that stuff, which just shocked me. Like, I'm like, why would you not be interested in at least seeing what's in these packets and these mailers and these really cool. So that really surprised me, Jenny, that like for him, none of that really mattered to him at all.
Putting on your former enrollment hat for just a second,
Yeah.
right? When you were on that side, were you sending those lovely mailers and all of that collateral, or the publications? Were you sending it for the parents, or were you hoping the students would look at it?
Yeah, I think back when I was on the college side, I think in my mind it was, the student, when the student gets this and opens it up and it's got the poster that, I got in, and yes, like we know lots of students, they love getting that stuff and they're going to showcase and they're going to post on social and do things. But I think just seeing it through the experience with my son, I think I probably, if today I'm still in that seat, on the enrollment side, I would think I would make sure information that's going out that parents, because I would imagine a high percentage of parents, when that stuff's coming in the mail, they are definitely paying attention to it, whether the student is or not. And so, yeah, I think from a strategy standpoint, if you're not ever sending anything specific to parents, maybe you should be. And if you're only sending that student packet, there definitely should be information in there really relevant maybe to the parent as well.
Because it's sounding like in your house, it wasn't your son that was consuming that content. It was you as a parent were all about it. Yeah.
Yes,
so
100%.
Maybe we need to rethink what's being sent. Like maybe if it was in the form of, I don't know, like laptop stickers or something, maybe it needs to be sent in the way that they like to receive content, whatever that may be, right?
Yeah, and again, what works for one student, may work. I mean, it's hard, right?
Right.
Because,
there's no, yes, we're working under the presumption that no one size fits all, which is why this is so painfully complicated.
Yeah. But Jenny, I do think that speaks to also in knowing who your prospective students like really are. Like your prospective students.
Your community, right?
Exactly, yes. And like your prospective MIT students, like, they're not the same maybe as our prospective students at, whatever other college that's out there. So like, if you know your type of student, then maybe you can really kind of design and craft that type of outreach, be it, a print piece in the mail or swag or different things. Like, so I think, it's kind of like you just need to know who your audience really is.
Totally.
In an effort for whatever you're trying to do to engage.
For example, so our admits find out on Pi Day, because Pi Day is such a huge deal for us at Tau time. So that's
my gosh.
It's very specific. They find out online immediately, right? Then later on they get a cylinder. It's a cylinder in the mail. So it's not like a packet. Right. It's like that kind of speaks to what you're saying, is like
know your students, know your audience.
Know your audience, know your culture.
I love that.
I think that little tidbit is a great bit of advice to know that, like, the parents are looking at the beautiful mailing packets, less so the students. Can you speak to maybe a pain point that you kind of felt over and over again that you thought, gosh, there has to be a better way?
I think, yes. I think where I would feel frustrated in the process, and again, this is nothing towards Indiana University. I mean, it's just, I think there were times where...
obviously, because he's going there, right? So it wasn't like a deal breaker, but but just in the process of all that he, went through.
Yeah, I think what I learned, I mean, when you look at an Indiana University, okay, a school with tens of thousands of students, logistically to do this for an incoming class, like, it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot. And so I think one of the things that was tough in this process, and one of the things that I felt like sometimes frustrated me, would be like, oh my goodness, he has to have a login for this. He has to now have an account for this. Now there needs to be a password that gives you access to this, that then gives you access over here. And just like all of the different, you got to have access to this portal, and then you're going to need at this time this portal. And it just seemed like at times like overwhelming, and it could be a little frustrated. And it's easy to confuse, like, okay, why did I, especially for him, he's never gone through this process before. So even understanding, well, why do I need the login for this thing that I don't even know what this is? And that allows me to do this. And so, just some of those, platforms, software systems, portals, all the things that he would need to have access to move through the process, like that was a lot. That was a lot.
The next era of higher ed is here. AI that's both scalable and deeply human. At the 2025 Engage Summit, learn how to use agentic AI to personalize outreach, engage proactively, and free time for what matters most. This don't miss event is happening June 24th to the 25th in Charlotte. Enrollify listeners get $50 off with code Enrollify50. Don't wait. Register at engage.element451.com. Soup, I bet you and I could even figure out why that is, because it was one platform and that they needed another bit, and so instead of integrating the two, that there's another it's like having a house and you build an add-on, and then you build an add-on and you renovate this, and then you build a second store. So it's all, but instead of having one universal password, which, oh my gosh, makes so much sense and would be great, it's every spot has a different entryway, right?
Yeah, that's 100%. And again, maybe, maybe it has to be. I mean, a school that size, maybe it's, because again,
these things are not simple. They're never as simple as you would want them to be. Yeah.
Right. Because you look at a school of that size, I mean, just, residential life alone, just that entity and, the systems that they're going to use. I mean, that's going to be different than systems that academic affairs are using. And so there's going to be these different systems and platforms. But yes, on the front end, for a student, and again, Jenny, like to me, again, here, this is my son with a parent who works in this profession.
Right.
And so what breaks my heart is then I immediately think about all of our students, like our underrepresented students, our first-gen students, trying to navigate this process without a lot of support and help. And I'm thinking, I mean, if I'm confused and if I'm getting frustrated at times with this, I can't imagine how our young people that don't even have that level of support, like, how they navigate this is just, it's crazy for me to think about. And so that was really, what was illuminating for me is we've got to do better. We've got to find better ways, to kind of break this down to make it simpler for all of our students.
At the end of the day, we all want students to go to a university. We just do, wherever it fits for them. And if the application process is painful, then gosh, that's tough, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is. And we forget, all of us that work in this profession, we forget how daunting of a task. I mean, just again, I've been doing research with my good friend and colleague, Dr. Raquel Bermejo, who works for RNL. We're in our third year of research on high school seniors, just their feelings and emotions as they go through this process. And we just forget what their life is like during that senior year. There's so much stress, there's so much anxiety, fear of the unknown. I mean, there's a lot of excitement too, but it's just such a challenging time in their life, and while they're navigating this major life change, oftentimes for the first time in their life, and trying to figure this out, and they're stressed and they're scared and they're, all these emotions, then we're just kind of hammering them over and over again on this, just like, next steps, you're missing this, sign up. And like, I oftentimes wonder, like, are we are we truly helping them through this process, or are we even contributing, to some of that anxiety and stress?
Anxiety, yeah. Do you see these lines on my board? These are from high school. I promise you. Like people think, oh, like these are recent. No, no, no. I've had these since I was a junior in high school. I promise. So you talked about your current research. Oh my gosh, we're gonna have to have that conversation again sometime. But
Oh, yeah.
now I'm gonna ask you to put your current hat on
Sure.
because you do, work at ZeeMee. Are students sharing pain points on the platforms? Are they kind of talking about these things?
Yeah, 100%. I think, over the years at ZeeMee, what has been so beautiful to see is the shared experience that the students go through and being able to go through it together. And I'll give you a concrete example of this. Those of us that work in social media or do this, like we've all seen, like we know those videos, the students they'll post their TikTok of like, I'm waiting to see, did I get into MIT?
Yes.
And then mom and dad's like over their shoulder, they get in and they go crazy and they're so excited. So think about that. Think about a student by themselves on TikTok scrolling who maybe didn't get into their dream school. And now all of a sudden in their For You page, they're just one after another seeing these students at the happiest moment of their life. Like, so imagine what it could feel like to the student that didn't get in. Mm-hmm. And so on ZeeMee, what's crazy cool, and I know this sounds bizarre, is all of these tens of thousands of students in a college's community on ZeeMee, and decisions go out. And of course, you're going to see lots of them like, waitlisted, didn't get in. But there's something beautiful in that moment, an individual student knowing that, wow, this didn't just happen to me.
Oh, because they're sharing
sharing. And then what you see, Jenny, that like is unbelievable is then you'll see students just rally and kind of like, that's okay, we got this. That's why we applied to multiple schools. We're going to find our best fit. And so I love that students can go through this shared experience. Many of them are going to get devastating news. I mean, many of these students have a dream school. And listen, Jenny, you work at a dream school for a lot of, and so, but it's also okay for those students to know, look, this doesn't determine the rest of your life. It doesn't determine that you're going to have
100%.
And so
yeah.
I love that students can be in the moment with each other, carry each other through, support each other, lift each other up, encourage each other. That's to me one of the most special things that we see on ZeeMee, especially during, when decisions are going out.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And I do recognize that. And it's funny because, we just have every school has different admissions needs or and I say, and people ask me about that. And I just, I very woefully say, I'm like, you know what? We are breaking the hearts of enough kids. But it's nice to know, and that there's a place, right? Or a sense of like where they can go to share and feel the same things. And and thank you for sharing that perspective, because I had not actually thought of that myself. It's
when you're alone.
Yeah.
When you go through that process alone, you don't always see what every other student's going through too, right? And again, you think about when I think about just the prospective student, period, so much of what happens is in isolation. Just I received something in the mail, or I watched something on their Instagram account, or, I had this visit day experience. Like it's still like, it's often always kind of isolated just with that student experiencing those touch points. And so there is something very powerful for allowing this experience to be shared and allowing them to experience it together, so they have a bigger picture of understanding that, what may happen to me, I'm not the only one. Like we're all going to get, like we applied to many schools. We're not, all of us are going to get denials, and that's okay. Like that's part of the process. So
that's why we apply to many schools.
Exactly.
So I'm going to ask you to put your dad hat back on.
All right.
And Did your son receive some rejections? And after that, was there a cliff, or was there a good way to do that or a bad way? Did you go through that with him at all?
So my son is the perfect example of one of those. He is very stubborn, strong-willed. He's extremely bright, but he knew right away, like early on in the whole process. I think he felt like that IU was where he wanted to go. Now,
Okay.
I'll give you one of the perfect example. His close friend group, we're down in southern Indiana where we live. He's got an incredible close friend group, 2 or 3 guys, all talented students. They just all, I mean, they were planning to go to IU. And so
Okay.
it's kind of just like, look, this is my core group. This is where we're going.
So he really put all of his eggs in one
Yeah,
basket.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
He just knew, and so I think it would have been, had it not worked out at IU, then we would have been starting from scratch, because he just was one of those.
Okay. Okay.
You know, this is the plan. Like, I mean, I would, let's go do some college visits. Let's go, with what you're wanting. Purdue's got some great stuff going. Like, we should get up there and check it out. And he didn't want to mess with the college visits. He didn't want to. He found what information he needed from Reddit and from his core group, and he did the application process. I'm in, good to go. That's all he needed. So yeah.
I mean, but that's eye-opening too. Like, that's
Right.
people get the information from, their immediate peers, right?
Yeah.
And where they go to find the information themselves. And it's usually not on our website
That's
or our own social media channels.
And it's not that those things, obviously, those sites and extremely important and valuable, but it just goes to show like what they're thinking. And I mean, we joke and we laugh like all the time, like, these kids aren't going to make a major life decision like this based on where their girlfriend or boyfriend's going or where their friend. But the reality is, I believe a lot of these students, that type of thing does shape decision making. And we can have the greatest this, the greatest that, the best. We're giving you the best scholarship. I mean, there were some schools. Obviously, he did apply to several other schools, and I mean, he could have gone to some other schools with incredible scholarship opportunities. But so like none of that even motivated him, because he just knew, like, I'm going here, so why even entertain it? And so yeah, it's fascinating to see what impacts the decision making of so many of these young people.
Well, I mean, it sounds like he had found his community. He had
Yes.
found his community, and he's going where they are. Whereas there are other students that are going to college to look for their community,
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said for that, to that. So,
Yeah.
like, lean into the culture.
And there's no right or wrong way to do this.
No,
I think that's
no.
the big thing to say
Right.
too, is that, he did it his way. Were there times I was very frustrated with the way he was wanting to do it?
Well, I mean, you're the parent, so that's par for the course, But in the end, he's going to college, and
Yeah.
he's gotten to where he wanted, so that's amazing, right?
Yeah,
So-
100%. I think they all will navigate it their own way. There's no right or wrong, and at the end of the day, I think it just reminds me, not only as a parent, but all of us that work in this profession, just, again, how are we best just supporting these students, and just, empowering them to navigate the process in the way they want to navigate it, and just help guiding them along the way so that they ultimately can get there, I think, is really what I've learned, both from the parent side and, working in this profession for years.
I wish I could remember who said this to me, because I want to give them credit. But they said, just because I went to college like 30 years ago or something, whatever, it doesn't mean I understand their experience now, right? I mean, there are things that are the same. Like, yes, it's stressful, but I think, the tools are different. The processes are different. Like, the marketing is different. So I think I can't assume to know how they're going or where they're going for information exactly,
Oh yeah, we can't. There's no way, Jenny, that I can compare. Again, I share this story. I have the good fortune at ZeeMee that I get to work with colleges and universities all over the country and train a lot of these staffs, and so one of the things I always share is, I went to Indiana University, fall of 1994. And literally, Jenny, it was like the day before classes started. My parents, it is exactly what you think when you hear they pulled up, dropped me off, kind of threw the stuff out of the vehicle onto the sidewalk. And before I barely even had a chance to say bye, they were already gone. And so that day, there was you had a 30-minute convocation, and then you were dismissed. You were told, go find an academic advisor, make sure you got some classes, then go find your dorm. You'll probably meet your roommate for the first time. Maybe you get lucky and you get in there first so you can pick which bunk you want. And then you were lucky if you even made some friends by the end of first semester. And that's just how it was. Mm-hmm. We know that is just not how it is today. And these students today, they want their connections, they want their friend group, they want that sense of belonging. They want to have that long before they ever step foot on campus. And it's just that's just one example of how this is just so night and day different than it was, just a few decades ago, not really that long ago. Mm-hmm. And so it is, I think many of us that work in this profession, we just always need to remind ourselves, these young people today are going through, yes, they're going to college, and yes, they're going to be in classes like we went to college and we sat in classes, but these experiences are very, very different mm-hmm. today with what these young people are going through. And I think the more we can just commit to truly wanting to understand them. And Jenny, one of the things that's really big for me is so much of what we've done on the higher ed side, when we adopt or we implement or we use new, technology or things, many times that's in the best interest of us on the college side. It can make life easier for us. Example I've been using, okay, all of us today use the most sophisticated CRMs you could possibly imagine, especially on the enrollment side. There's virtually every college university is now leveraging a powerful CRM. For us on the college side, how wonderful is that? Now we can streamline our campaigns and our outreach and our email. All of this is so sophisticated and it makes our life so easy. But what is that experience like for the prospective student that is getting 20,000 emails?
Such a good observation.
So again, and it's, none of us today would say, well, let's stop using CRMs. But we have to understand that much of what we do can make life easier for us, more efficient, but it doesn't necessarily automatically mean that translates to that improves the student's experience as they go through this. And so I think one of the challenges that I've been putting out to all of my friends who are still on the college side is, can we just be committed to make sure we really think about these things that we're adopting, that we're wanting to leverage, that we're wanting to use, and know that, yes, it has the potential to greatly enhance the work that we're doing on our side, but let's really analyze and see how does that impact the prospective student, because it's not always the same.
There is great wisdom in that, my friend. And with that, I have one more question to ask you. Soup, what is your confession?
Oh my gosh, my confession would be this. And I know your listeners, your audience are so many of my people that just are social media pros that are in the trenches, that do such challenging work every single day, often misunderstood, never fully appreciated, all those things. So, and I've lived that life. I've been on that side and I've lived that life. I think my confession is how many social media platforms I've really walked away from and I'm just no longer on anymore. And a big part of that, Jenny, is mental health. I just think those of us that have to work in this profession and manage social, the toll that this is taking on our mental health, there will be research studies done one day. And of course, all of these platforms that have evolved into the infinite scroll, which is just so addictive and we can't put down. And so I think for me, I've finally got to a place at ZeeMee where I could position myself where I no longer had to be the one to just have to manage all of those platforms. And so for me, stepping away, I'm no longer on Facebook. I'm not on Instagram anymore. Most of those accounts like, X and Twitter, I think my account probably still exists, but I just, removing those from my phone and trying to step away from that, is probably the confession that most people wouldn't realize. I'm still a power user on LinkedIn, so I'm very, very active there. But I think I would just encourage anyone listening to this episode, and if you're in that current seat and you just feel overwhelmed, I would say that you can continue probably to work your way career-wise into a position at some point where you can pull back a little bit and maybe step away and not have to be, in every single platform, minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. So my big confession is I work for a social media company and I have gotten off of many, many social media platforms at the same time.
I love it. And it seems to be a trend among those who have longevity in the business. I'm hearing it more and more. So I love it. And Soup, always, I learn so much when I talk with you. And thank you so much for your time.
Jenny, you are the best. You are a wonderful friend and colleague. I love, love, love all the things that you do in our space. This was awesome.
Confessions of a Higher Ed Social Media Manager is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed marketers and admissions professionals find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Jamie Hunt, Allison Tercio, Mallory Wilsey, and so many others of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.